over there in Facebook land.
I've seen it.
So here we are at 20 seconds. And so now we have joined the club. This is the club. Here at AM 560, The Answer. Here with our friend today. He's my friend every day. Mr. Attorney David Schlueter. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hey, thanks again for having me on. It's a pleasure. Happy Friday.
It is a happy Friday. I got to tell you, I told you my son had a birthday last night. We went to Rosati's, saw my nephew over there. They had this great cup where I could put my old style in the cup, and it made it look like it was green, but it wasn't really green.
Optical illusion.
Yeah, it was awesome because you get that stuff. They start putting green stuff in your beer and stuff, but this just made it look green. I thought it was great, and I drank a lot of old style last night. And then my son had a bunch of his friends there, and they were drinking Fireball. And also, of course, I had to do a couple with them because they made me.
But you didn't go into a coma.
They held me down and put it down. Well, they didn't. And then I brought them a Portillo's chocolate cake. And
big one.
Yeah, but I forgot it at Rosati's. We didn't even eat it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Did you go back and get it?
No,
they were $30.
They were $30.
I know.
They still have. I went over there today. Yeah, they still have it. They said, "You gonna take it home?" I said, "No, I'm gonna come here later today, so I can eat it there today." So, and then I had to get up early because we have Friday during Lent. We had mass this morning at 6:30. Not a good thing. I was very tired on driving here. Because I'm never tired driving here, but I kind of fall asleep. I didn't fall asleep though. I don't have a Tesla. One day, cars will drive us all, right, Dave?
My wife said she won't ever do it. She'll hold out when there's no driver at all. You know, like the trams at the airport, there was nobody there. If that's really the car, I think she'll just abstain. I'll take the chance. I don't mind.
I don't mind either. It'd be hard, though, for someone like us that grew up with controlling the car. It'll be very difficult. They say that maybe they'll black in the windows, so because it'll be too hard for people to drive.
To see your death?
To see what's not going on. Because you want to drive. One thing that if the self-driving car will stop, the Gapers block. There'll never be another Gapers block. You never think of that.
Right, the computer doesn't care to look at the injured.
And you'll have to do it on your way out. Whoosh! Hey, did you see that?
And it's always, boy, that was one of the worst I've ever seen. That's what you always say. It doesn't matter how bad. It could be a guy with a flat. That was one of the worst I've ever seen.
And no matter what, you get there and you're like, this is what we were all waiting for? Of course, you slow down and watch too. Oh, yeah.
Of course you do. And everybody on the other side.
And everybody on the other side. It's like, it was not even on your side.
Yep.
I get it. So we're going to run through this very quickly for you, Dave, so you can get out of here. I know you have you're a practicing attorney and you have a lot of work to do. I told the young lady who called me for that advice that I called you about. I called her yesterday. I did not. She didn't call me back, but I said we're going to be on WatchTalkRadio.com and on YouTube tomorrow afternoon around 2:15, and we're probably going to talk about your question. So you should probably watch it.
Yeah, not by name.
Not by name.
Right.
I don't remember her name. And anyway, she was representing somebody else, so I don't even know the name of the person that was really that has this issue, because she is a CPA, and she thought this was something beyond her. She's preparing as tax return, so she just said this is beyond me. So I thought I'd call a tax attorney, and then I had to tell her, I don't want to talk about it. We'll talk about it on there. Otherwise, I'll ruin all the good stuff. Okay, Joliet, you ready to go?
All set.
We will make sure. Let me make sure that I spelled your name correctly, because sometimes I don't.
Looks good. Okay. It's good on the camera.
It's good there, yes. And then that's your phone number, correct?
Yep.
And then I have. Let me check one more. And then I have I have it on here too. Let's see how that works. And that is SchlueterLawOffice.com, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No dots or dashes or hashtags.
That's it. Okay, got it. Okay. Thanks so much, people. Do my intro. I was busy. It is the Watch Talk Radio podcast here with Joliet, and our guest this week is attorney David Schlueter. Welcome to the show, David Schlueter.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here again.
It's great to have you. That's why we have you, because you're chocked full of information. And
for now, anyway.
And you're going to share it with people on the show. What we're going to talk about, we don't know. You have to join us to find out. But let us begin the show. Welcome to the program. I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen A. Leahy, like he just said. I am here at the AM 560 The Answer with our technical producer, Joliet. Welcome. Thanks so much for all you do, Mr. Buckhalter. We appreciate your work. Now, remember, the show is sponsored by the Law Office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems forever. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. This is the Trust Radio Network, where we introduce you to trusted professionals, people you can trust when you're making important decisions. I say it every week, but there's no more important decision than who you're going to hire for your attorney. And here's one that almost everybody, most people, are going to run into going to need an attorney when you buy a home. And one of the best at that is our guest today is attorney David Schlueter. Come on, crowd, get up with it, get with it, crowd. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Now I have a reason to live. After I heard the applause, that's it. I'm set.
So some people get drunk on the applause. I understand.
I'll remember the little people. Don't worry.
Well, welcome to the show, Dave. I know that you've been a frequent guest here, and the reason why you're a frequent guest is because you share such great information with people. And I want people to know, when we're going to talk a little bit later, because I gave you a call this week from someone called me, and I didn't know the answer, so I have to reach in my bag of tricks, and you're in the bag of tricks.
I have many. It's reciprocal, and that any lawyer who thinks they're going to charge someone to learn on their dime is a fool.
Yeah, well,
it does catch up with them. There are guys and women who are guilty of that.
Well,
they have no idea what they're doing, so they study it. And they're probably going to be wrong.
Well, that's true, and that's why one thing about this show, the Trust Radio Network, is I learn so much, and I associate myself with great people. So when I have a question, I know who to reach out to and get the right answer. Maybe maybe we start with that. Let's start with that because I think it's important that people understand. Because I always tell people, the woman that called, she was a tax preparer. I think she was a CPA or enrolled agent, I think she said. And she got stumped on a question. And the question, here's the question. She called, she said, I have a longtime client, and his wife passed away in 2004, and they created a trust in 1997 or something.
Pre-death.
Yes, pre-death, right before. And they bought a home and they put it in a trust. And then there was a trust. It was pour over, I believe is the right word, to pour that this was going to fund another trust when she passed. But he never did anything. So now it comes years later, he sold the house. The son goes and gets an EIN, which is an employer identification number, for the trust because they're supposed to have an EIN. And
what that does, the Social Security Administration does not like corpses earning income. So it shifts it from a corpse to a federal ID number, which is basically a Social Security number. It's longer, but it's for entities, it's for trusts, estates, corporations, LLCs, so that Social Security number is not making money after the funeral. That's what it's all about.
Uh-huh. And so what happened was then they asked her to prepare this trust because he dated it from years and years ago. This trust then was supposed to file tax returns and did not.
Yeah, what happened there, and I really enjoyed answering it out of actually some personal experience where it happened. On the online application for SS4, Federal ID number, IRS, there's a portal, and it existed back then. It's been around a long time. And you can also fax it in. If you check a box wrong on that fax form, or that's how they do it when you do it in writing, or you check an incorrect pin on the radio button on the website, the 99% of the time the mistake is, it asks the question, when was the trust funded? And whoever got that federal ID number made a common error for people who don't do it all day. And they go and they say, well, funded must have mean when it started. When you put that year, 1999, the computers at the IRS start spooling up, just like in war games, with the big computer
Yes.
and the lights blinking, right?
Yes.
Third global thermonuclear war. And it starts spitting out of the printer a letter for every year since that was established. So if you did it now, there would have been 33 letters generated. 99, okay, well, 2000, so there have been 23 letters generated. And they all have a year of inquiry. So what happens is the person gets, oh my God, I got 23 inquiries. I'm sure that's what happened.
That's what happened.
Yeah, and what you have to do, for those of you, ladies and gentlemen, and young children, you have to put when you're being asked to set up the federal ID number, because there's some financial issue about to happen, the sale of a home, selling of some stock, by that trust. So the funding, again, no charge for this, the funding date is not the starting date, it's the day of the financial activity being contemplated. So if I did one today, it does it by month. When did it happen? I would answer March of 2022, and then the client's not going to get 20 letters.
Well, and again, I did not know that. I was telling her, this sounds more like a probate question than a tax question.
Not really, yeah.
Well,
it's something we do. When we open estates, as soon as the judge signs what's called the order appointing a guardian, order appointing an executor, that's because someone had a will. And for those of you listening, if there's no will, you're called an administrator. You're not the executor of your brother. If you didn't have a will, you're an administrator, same word. When that order comes down from the judge, then most attorneys that day or the next day go ahead and they answer truthfully, when was the estate opened? From the IRS point of view, it's not the day you pay the clerk of the court for the case. From the IRS point of view, the date of the estate opening is the day your client gets appointed. So I do it literally the day of when I get the downloaded order or the next day, just so I don't forget, to be honest with you.
Well, it makes sense, and again, it wasn't really a tax question. I mean, it is a tax question, but I never had faced it. So it rang in probate, and when I think about probate, I'm thinking, go ask Dave Schlueter.
Right.
He knows.
Right.
And you did know. See how that worked?
Yep. And so, again, people like, because things are on the computer, they like to save the attorney fee by saying, well, I'll do this part and you do that part. Because of that hand grenade problem, if you check that box wrong, I don't let my clients do it on their own. I'll say, look, I'll charge you like $50. It's not a big deal. I'm in and out of the portal. An odd thing that happens on that site, though, I'll tell you this, is a very honest person can be in your office. They tell you their social, they tell you their background, and it'll say, the IRS will not issue that to your person. It's a very odd code. They have error codes. And you can call, and you have to sit on hold for a couple hours. You don't keep your client there. It'd be a nice way to make money. But you can do it on your phone and set it down. Then they'll finally pick up, maybe help you. And they'll tell you what the code is. Sometimes it's that person has too many federal ID numbers already. They might have had 5 LLCs or whatever. Sometimes it's the address that you put in is not the address the IRS has for them. And they'll let you know that and decline it. They'll also say you have a number for the day of application of 2024. In other words, it analyzes your work, but it also analyzes your client. Some reason. I hope it isn't like that person shouldn't be in the United States. That would be a bad answer.
We had an immigration attorney here last week.
Yeah, aren't they something? That's so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I don't do any of it.
No.
People, if I did it, they'd get the electric chair. There's no way I could handle their case. Okay. But it's amazing. And my classmate from Loyola is a federal magistrate in the federal court downtown. And
is that right?
She's a federal of the immigration division.
And I don't want to. Let's not talk about Loyola right now. I'm still reeling. I'm still reeling from that. So we got about a half a minute left.
Yes.
Tell us, give us your phone number, Dave. How can people reach you?
Sure, 630-285-5300. 630-285-5300. And there's a sign outside my office. Always a free consultation.
Always a free and again, Dave will answer questions for you if you have a question about real estate, about probate. That's what I love so much about Dave. He's free with his information to a point. Remember now, this show is sponsored by Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. Give them a call at 312-664-6649. We're going to take a break. We're going to come right back here, talk more with Attorney Dave Schlueter. Won't you join us here on AM 560, The Answer? No, my camera went out on me for some reason.
Okay.
I have no idea why.
Even though I can see it?
That's the second camera.
Oh,
so I got this camera here. I don't know why.
You want to just reboot it, or?
No, I don't know what's going to happen. Why do they go out? Who knows why?
They're digital,
I had a really good long run, about 6 or 7 weeks where I just turned them on, they worked.
Right. That's how it was. Remember at WLS with Dave, he had that one up at the same. It would go out every show.
This was the Mevo.
Yeah.
I bought that from him.
Yeah.
This is my second one.
Yeah.
So.
But that thing, he would be cursing.
Yeah.
I filmed one of my commercials with him one time, and I said, and so what's the intensity of whatever? I asked, and he goes, and he couldn't say it back to me. He couldn't pronounce the word, and he went into a litany of hysterical swearing. So I asked Ashley, I said, let's save that one for the ratings. I said, the ratings are going to go through the roof.
Okay, so I'm not sure what happened. Oh, well, it is what it is. I don't get bent out of shape about it unless both the cameras go out, and sometimes that happens. So it still might happen. But again, I had a good 7 weeks, 8 weeks where all I did turn them on, they worked. Right. Because I do this, and I use it at my church on Sundays because I stream my church.
Yeah, I see it.
And so last Sunday, one of the cameras didn't work. It was the other cam. No, it wasn't. It was that same camera. Oh. But it was just working. Anyway, I'll move along. Let's move along. The show's about you anyway, not about me. Welcome back to the show. I am here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Our guest this week, Attorney David Schlueter. Attorney Schlueter helps people with real estate deals and estate planning. And let's talk a little bit about real estate because it's been kind of a wild ride this last year or something. But you help people a lot with real estate, don't you?
Yeah, I've been doing that from the day I started. I was hired by a firm when I got out of Loyola at the executive relocation. And my first day, they handed me 4 files, and they said, "See you tomorrow." And I go, "What do you mean?" They go, "You need a Tribune map. There's a 7-Eleven next door. Get your Tribune map." There's no GPS. This is 1986, right? And we have told all the other attorneys on all 4 to take care of you. So I go, "That's okay." So I go in, have a cup of coffee. They come right around. They say, "Mr. and Mrs. Jones, this is Dave. He's a brand new attorney hire of a friend of ours. Would you mind if I share some information with him as he does his part?" Oh, we all like people to learn. Then I went the next day, 4 other attorneys. Eventually, I started realizing that I was catching on, and I started to have more time to network with the realtors and the lenders. And before you know it, I was a partner and paying for myself. Well, many associates do not pay for themselves, meaning that your revenue that
Bringing
you bring
them
in. Yeah, it happened within about 2 years. I was
Really?
cash positive. Yeah, and eventually made partner. And the reason is, like I said, but having that experience with that relo firm, they had high-end questions. I mean, these are substantially expensive properties. Back in the day when you were an executive, they would buy your house without a buyer. We would have a closing to calculate your equity. You're moving to St. Louis, right? They would calculate your equity, cut you a check, and set you loose to go find a home with one of their agents. They had a network of agents, but you didn't have to worry about selling your house. They would start taking over the payments, the taxes, and eventually they'd mark it up and sell it. Sometimes they lost money, but it was part of the benefit. And whatever they were short, that was billed to the employer. The employer paid for everything. I had one lady, actually nearby Arlington Heights, whose husband was the person, we called them transferees. They were going to like Kansas from Chicago, and her kids were in the district, 214, like very nice school district.
I went to 214.
Well,
I went to Hershey High School.
I could tell. So she calls me on a Friday.
That's very nice of you, Dave.
She calls me on a Friday afternoon and says, "David, are you my lawyer too?" Meaning, can I talk candidly? I said, "Well, yeah, actually, ultimately, I'm being paid by your husband's employer, but fire away." She goes, "Okay, is this confidential?" I go, "Don't worry about it. Tell me what's up." Under no circumstances are you to let this deal close. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you burn letters. I don't care if you swear at the other attorney. Make this explode. I am not moving to Kansas. So what I had to do was I said, "Okay, well, have a good day." I didn't answer any of that. Took it in the file, taped it closed, and shipped it to their office. They were in a near west suburb. And I said, "I have an ethical conflict now. I can't handle either. I can't handle this."
That's true.
Yeah, I just shut up. I didn't ever tell him the backstory. But that poor guy, if it got out later why I gave up the file, here's what it would be. It'd be like an Office Space with the Bobs. They'd come in and say, "So we're the Bobs, we're in charge of relocation. You're not going to be here anymore. You got to control your family or whatever. You're done.
Yeah.
You caused this major embarrassment or whatever." Yeah. So... and those buyers, there was a buyer under contract. Someone was to buy that house.
So let me ask you this now.
Yes.
That's what I've been asking.
That's a good story, though.
That is a good story, and I also wanted to, I've been asking attorneys like, what's the first job you had out of law school?
Mm-hmm.
Also, why you went to law school.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you go to law school?
I was a law clerk before I even thought of being a lawyer. I was an employed law clerk at a River North law firm. They saw that I had a knack for it, and they said, "Would you mind staying I'd already been there 3 years as an employee. And they said, "Would you mind staying 3 more years? You can apply to whatever school you want. We'll help you some financial, not the tuition, but they just gave me a raise and things to help get me through." And I said, "Well, yeah, of course. If I can get in." They go, "You'll do fine." So I took the LSAT, did pretty well. And then I got into DePaul, Kent, and Loyola, and John Marshall. Picked Loyola because it was closer to their office in River North. I would walk to class from there. It was walk worthy because they were at State and Pearson, and this was up at Grand and Wells. And I stayed the full 3 years, passed the bar, and then they let me stay there and making good money for the time until I actually found where I wanted to practice. They offered me a job, by the way.
Did they do real estate?
They did real estate. They did a lot of business law. They did a lot of court work. I cut my teeth on many areas, but the issue was that I saw kind of a glass ceiling there. I didn't really. One very dear friend of mine who's now passed away told me, he was a patent attorney. I knew him from my church. And he goes, "You really don't want to stay at the place where you were the guy who picked up their cleaning once in a while or took their
Makes
car to the
sense, yeah.
dealer. You'll never be thought of, even though hard you work and you'll make the money, you'll always in the back of their mind, when they shut their doors, they'll say, well, David's not going to leave or whatever. So I'm still friends with them, but they just said, that's dangerous ground. Don't set yourself up. If you're good at it, you will land somewhere. And I stayed there till December of '86. They took care of me. They kept paying me the same amount. And then I had a dinner with them, and I went out to Elk Grove Village, this very town. My first job, I replaced Rod Bogoyevich
Is that
at
right?
a law firm. He left the practice of law to go into politics, and the firm that I got hired by, he was an associate, and I actually sat at his desk.
Really?
And we actually kept in touch when he was in Congress, and then, of course, some things changed in his world. But, yeah, he was doing that running around closing job that I took.
Oh. And I always ask people that question because it's interesting how many attorneys wind up doing whatever they do right out of law school. That's
Right.
because that's kind of what you learn and that's what you do.
And if
Now,
you're not good at it, then it doesn't last.
Let me ask you this. I got about 3.5 minutes left. And I want to ask you this, and this is why. I have 2 sons, and both of my sons are now in law school.
Right.
And so I want to ask you, what kind of advice would you have for law students or new lawyers coming out of law school now? What kind of advice would you have for them?
One is social and one is academic. The social is make as many friends as you can, because you have so much in common with them that when you start out your first 5 years, you've got to have a network of people that you can pick up the phone and say, I can't take it anymore, whatever the pressure, or just to continue to have a life, because it's very hard when you're a new attorney. Make a lot of friends, and I made a point to do that. I still keep in touch with some of the greatest guys ever. I mentioned earlier, one of my friends is a magistrate, 2 of them are circuit court judges, but not being a litigator, it doesn't affect my world that much, but I can pick up the phone with any of them still. The second thing is academic. You should pick the classes. First year is all the same. You should pick a variety of classes, even if they're heard to be a hard class, because it just could be that one of the classes that you take will catch such interest by you, even though you're studying so hard, that your whole life could be altered. My teacher for products liability, for example, he represented large manufacturers. They had one where they had a guy actually have a lawnmower sideways to cool his garage, and he's got it running. Well, it's going to go, the blade, right, or whatever. So then he would represent the lawnmower company on the injury or whatever. I love that class so much, but the issue was I saw how tired he was. He was trying cases during the day, getting paid well because he was the defense lawyer, but I just saw that he really had a very hard life. He got paid well, but I said, you know what? It's fascinating. I love the stories, because it was so great to have a lawyer who was out in the trenches as your professor. So I could have gone that way, but I looked at it, I said, he's really tired, man. He's hardly getting the class done. But then, sure enough, I did take a real estate class, and I did ask very intelligent questions. And so when I started looking, I really did want to start. It's also a less adversarial. I'm not a wimp. I can say my terms and talk on my feet like a trial lawyer. Okay, I can do that. But the issue is the non-adversarial, being a Christian, actually, that leaned me towards that of reconciliation, all working together, not having to make it personal. And there is not a lot of that in real estate. In real estate, everybody's working together. You still represent your client's interests, but that was more in tune with who I am as a person, of being in a non-adversarial. Probate itself can be kind of adversarial if some family members think somebody's taken too much or whatever. But even some of that, I've had to step out and bring in some bring in a second wing person, wingman, who's maybe a little savvy, or wingwoman when it gets heated up. But again, I'm not scared of conflict, but when you're going to live your life, that one fit my value system of basically the least adversarial type of the law that I could see. Other than just reading books all day and writing briefs, that wasn't me either.
Well, I appreciate that. I get it. I'm putting these together for both my sons. They listen to these for the advice, so I appreciate that. Tell us where people can find you, Dave.
Yeah, I'm over in Itasca, and that's a little town that's basically at 355 and Irving Park Road. For those of you who don't know, we're directly west of O'Hare. I've been there. I was in Elk Grove Village 23 years, and right in the same town where we're at today, and then moved down there in 2009, and I've been there since. My wife and I live in the same town.
Telephone number.
630-285-5300, 630-285-5300.
We're going to take a break and come right back on AM 560, The Answer.
We have to get to that
Very
one
good.
about the short sales where they're coming back to bite them.
This is the Constitution segment. You have something on the Constitution you want to talk about that you off the top of your head? Can you talk something about the Constitution?
About the United States Constitution?
Yeah. Remember last? Oh, you did a great job.
I did a great job. I know. I'm trying to think. Not that I'm not humble. Let me think. What's been on my mind about government. Last time it was confiscation of wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pissed me off. Okay, hold on a second. So let me just think real quick.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
No. I want to do a good job for you. Yeah, we're going to talk about real ID.
The real ID.
In Illinois, how much BS that is.
Oh, the new ID that you have.
Yeah, intrusion of private. Yeah, and I'll tell you a story. I'll let you hear it for the first time when I'm talking. They'll probably cancel mine after they watch the broadcast.
I haven't gotten one yet.
Well, if you have a passport, you'll still fly. But I'm always worried that if my house got broken into or something, and I didn't have a passport, and I had to be at a wedding the next day or something, I really would want to have the ability to fly. And I got kids. 3 of my kids live out of state, so. And try again, huh? It'd be great if it locks on. There you go. Now it's talking. Red's good, right?
It's not supposed to be. It's only supposed to be on when it's on, so it's not. It's not on. So. Oh well, we'll move along. Okay, we're gonna do the Constitution segment. Let's do the Constitution segment. Well, and let's keep it that way, is my opinion. I'm going to welcome our technical producer, Joliet Josh. And our guest this week is Attorney Dave Schlueter. Now, Attorney Schlueter is a constitutionalist, as I am. And so I asked Attorney Schlueter, what kind of issue did you want to talk about the Constitution? So tell us what you want to talk about.
The topic grows out of what I call a limited government perspective. From my opinion, these United States are actually these United States, and that it's a bunch of states that people should be able to select where they want to live based on the value system, the taxation pattern, not just geography, and that there can be differences where it should be different in Colorado than it is in Illinois. In other words, there are United States, okay, it's a republic of states who have a lot of power and sovereignty, or used to anyway, of which a federal government unites them for basically the things that should be necessary. Illinois, we have Air National Guard, but they really couldn't build aircraft carriers. In other words, there needs to be a federal level of that. There needs to be a federal level of commerce, having common money, and generally security, the borders, things like that. My topic today is, in Illinois, we have a thing called the Real ID. We're catching up with a lot of the other states who've had similar. There was a day about 3 years ago we weren't supposed to be able to go to O'Hare, but it's been now kicked back, I think 4 years total. I actually did get one right last time when they opened up the window to get them, because I have 3 kids who live out of state, and I would like to fly when I can. You can have a passport and fly, but one of the days if you lost your passport or was in the laundry and you then have to fly the next day, you're not going to be able to bring that if it's ruined, and then you might have to be at a wedding or a funeral. So I went ahead and got one, because eventually it will be the only way you can fly will be a passport or that Real ID. And I'm mentioning as a constitutional issue, because what they are making people go through to get that is unbelievable. They are making people with a straight face say, you need to go back and correct your birth certificate. I had a guy in my office the other day. His parents gave him a different name than what he had and when they came over, whatever. We have people running across the border and getting all kinds of licenses and IDs, but a regular, honest person, you wouldn't believe it. I've heard 7 or 8 war stories that I can't actually believe they happened. I was behind a lady when I got my real ID. They want everything to match. So they want your Social Security to match. They bring your W-2. It's so crazy. It has nothing to do with driving. Your W-2. Anyway, lady ahead of me, you have to bring a utility bill to show where you live, okay? So she has a gas company bill that had a letter after her unit number, but her driver's license that she's had for 20 years, and she lived there 20 years, didn't have that letter after it. They go next. They turned her down. She took a day off work from Chicago and came out to the suburbs, and they said, that inconsistency, you're done. It all has to match. You think you're going to get People's Gas or Nicor to change the address in their server? It's never going to happen. It's not even on her door. She lived in Unit 2, but it had 2B in the gas bill. So that's what I'm saying is an over-encroachment into common sense of our rights to travel. These people are getting turned down. They actually told someone, you got to go get a new birth certificate because like the middle initial wasn't on the birth certificate, but they got a middle initial later or whatever, or their Social Security. They've actually told people to reapply for a new Social Security card. What are you talking about?
Actually, I have a client, they made him go to court and change his name.
I mean, come on.
Because he didn't even know that there was a conflict in his birth certificate, and he had to go to court and change his name to the name he's been using for 20-some years.
And what does that have to do with a regular, honest person having the right to drive? So it's kind of a liberty thing.
Yeah.
It's not a right to drive; it's a privilege. People can lose their license for doing a lot of things, not paying the bill. You don't renew it, you're done, right? But absent that conduct of outright disregard for the system, you need to accommodate this. You know darn well that is the same guy or the same woman. They knew this woman lived at that apartment. That's where her license was. So they've got a little power and they're running with it. So I'm not joining a militia or anything, but I'm just saying that outrages me as a fair-minded person. That has nothing to do with driving, what your gas.
I agree with this, and a lot of this also goes back to what I do with the IRS. Is like, they make these broad rules, and then they say, well, we're not going to really hold you to it, but then they do. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, here I always liken it to a kid with a lemonade stand. The rule is you're not supposed to have a lemonade stand, right? He doesn't fit the license things, but we always let the kids have a lemonade stand.
Cute.
Yeah, and it's not hurting anybody.
They make $3. Who cares?
But when they start coming down on, hey, you got to have this, it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
It's because people sit in a room and say how different.
That's why we have to be very careful about what we allow in the law. And if they say, well, don't worry, we're not going to enforce that, they're lying to you. Anyway, tell us your phone number, how people can find you.
630-285-5300. That's one item they didn't make me put on my real ID. 630-285-5300.
Okay, so thanks so much. That's Dave Schlueter, Attorney Dave Schlueter. He's going to join us on the other side of this. Actually, he might not. Here on AM 560, The Answer. Because I played on both shows and you're not on the other show. That's good.
It's a passion.
And I'm going to tell you something. I do agree with that. They do, and that's what's happening with the IRS is that they start. We're not going to. It's like this 1099-K with the $600 reporting. Oh, you can report it. Don't worry, we're not going to look at your bank statements. Oh, yeah, you are.
You are going to.
Of course you are. And no, don't worry. It's not going to change anything for you if you're not using it for business services, goods or services. It won't affect you. Yes, it will. It will affect you.
In our lifetime, we're going to have to collect sales tax, I'm sure, on what we do.
It's coming.
It's coming.
I know it's coming.
The carpet guy's going to have to do it, everybody. The car wash.
The service, but they've been after lawyers to charge a sales tax
Doctors
for and I love the argument because the argument is this. It's just not fair. Why is it that when you buy something, a good, you have to pay a tax, but when you buy a service, you don't? It's because they're two different things.
Yeah.
Okay, but they use it's always the fairness issue. Oh, it's not fair. It's not fair that they have to pay it and you don't have to pay it.
But we have to do the paperwork and don't get to keep the money.
Well, let's make it fair then. Let's make nobody do it. How about that?
Well,
how about that? That would be fair. But no, that's not how they go with that.
But we have to report all of it when it happens, and we don't keep any of it. It's accommodating their collection effort.
It is. It does. It is a terrible thing. I have a client now. I help people with Illinois Department of Revenue things too. They are tough. They are tough. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you owe the Illinois Department of Revenue, you better find out and find how to pay them, okay? Because they're coming after you. They will take away your license for anything you do. And here in Illinois, you have to have a license to perform almost every task. You have to have a license. And if you have a license, they really
it's a state issued license. You're dead.
They ratchet up how much you have to put down.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? Because they can, and they got you. And it's amazing. And I've heard them. I've heard the collection agents say, it's amazing what will happen, what you can come up with when you say you can't, but they're going to take away your license. How you can come up with the money, and that's what they're after, right? You're going to make it. Now, some people won't be able to do it, and they're going to lose their job, and they don't really care. They really do not care. I had a client some years ago, a restaurant, and the IRS, not the IRS, the Illinois Department of Revenue came and closed down the restaurant. 35 people worked there. And you say, well, it doesn't make any sense. You're closing down the restaurant. They can't pay you. And the 35 people, what are they going to do? They don't care. We're closing them down.
They're on unemployment. Yeah.
We're closing them down. That's the way it works. It's very difficult. So if you owe the Illinois Department of Revenue, now the good news about the Illinois Department of Revenue is usually less than you owe the IRS because the rate's a lot less. You're not at 20% or 25%. You're at 5%, 5.5%. So you should owe them a lot less. But still, once they send it to a collection agency, which is what happens here in the state, they hit you with their fees, and then they want 40%, 50% up front before they'll even. Then they'll take away your license.
Cause a lot of stress.
It's very difficult. Okay, let's do the next segment.
Which we got to do the one about the foreclosures.
Okay, let's do that. Welcome back to the show. I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen A. Leahy. Like the guy just said, we're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Our guest this week, a fountain of information, is attorney David Schlueter. Welcome back to the program, Dave Schlueter.
Hey, thanks again. And I'm enjoying it today. It's just as much as I've done in the past.
Well, we always have fun. I think
great minds think alike.
We always have fun. And Dave and I also appear on David Hochberg's show occasionally together, but sometimes not.
I like when you're there, though, when I'm there. Because they always say, look at the two lawyers. We just happen to sit next to each other. Oh, they're teaming up over there.
I know my favorite. He brings it up all the time. You and Schlueter over there. We bring up this issue, and you say, "Well, that's in the contract."
And he goes, "I don't read the contract." That's what he said.
And that's in the contract. Of course, you got to pay the fee.
And then he goes, "I don't read it." He says.
But let's talk a little bit because you do real estate. I did a lot of short sales in my time.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, but talk a little bit about that. About what you see happening.
Yeah, there's a new wave. It's something that really nobody anticipated. It's a very interesting topic. So, short sales where people owed their mortgage company more than the house was worth, even though they put a ton of work into it. They were negative, upside down, we call it. And what they would have to do, they couldn't get anybody to pay the amount that they really even owed their bank. There weren't enough buyers to even get them. So what they had to do was hire lawyers to negotiate with people inside lenders, could be Chase, Citibank, Washington Mutual, whoever, saying, you're going to own this house soon because we can't afford it anymore. It's not a good investment for us. Would you please buy our house? And we will not walk away with a dime, but we do need a discount. And that way you won't have to foreclose on us. You'll have someone will come in and bail us out, but you won't get dollar for dollar. You might get 80 cents on the dollar. Well, there was so many of that because a lot of people should have never gotten homes who did back in the day. Mm-hmm. the requirements for a home was, do you have a face? And then you can get a loan. Not even a job, just a face. And there was pressure from the federal government that everybody should own a home.
That's true.
That was a constitutional right to own a home. It was not ever that. But anyway, bottom line is, in 08, 09, we were down in my firm more than 50% because everything got crushed. Well, the short sales actually ended up being lucrative for lawyers who did them because the sellers weren't walking away with any money. They figured, you know what? If the lawyer gets $2,000 instead of $500, give it to him. We need them to negotiate these things. We don't want to have all these foreclosures. You're kind of like at that point co-counsel for the bank because you're helping them not own a house. A buyer's going to own it. It's off their books and they're done. And they were bailed out by investors and everything anyway.
It was difficult, though, because, again, I did a lot of these short sales at the time, and I did charge the mortgage company because that's who wound up paying.
You're really helping. They're getting the benefit. Yeah.
Because they're the ones paying because on the closing statement, right, my fee would be paid at closing.
But there's no money for the sellers.
The sellers wouldn't get anything.
Right.
But they changed that, didn't they?
They also, they caught on that they could actually have internal people. They brought on 10 college graduates, let's say, instead of having the lawyers. So that went down to like regular fees. They said, we're not doing that anymore. Well, during the bonanza years, many people got into that because they saw it. The problem is, just like anything, it happens with realtors too. In this market, everybody wants to go to real estate license. Oh, it's smoking hot. They don't realize how competitive it is. Anyway, a lot of people got in and did short sales that were not competent like you were on how to do them. And one of the ones that's now coming to roost is this. There was ways properly if a person had a regular mortgage and a backup mortgage called a home equity loan or a down payment loan. There were the proper ways to get that both taken care of. But a lot of guys who thought, well, they're not getting any money anyway, let's get it closed, and they're never going to come back because they know the people are poor or whatever. Well, guess what? I've had 2 calls in the last 30 days from people who had a short sale. One of them had a $120,000 second mortgage. The other had an $80,000. And they're now, because people do have equity in their new homes, they're doing 50-state searches of where those former customers who walked on that debt, which they had a legal right to do if it was handled properly, the second mortgages were not properly dealt with by attorneys who got involved and didn't know what they were doing. And the answer is they owe the money still. So then you have to get into possible bankruptcy or whatever. But in this case, one of the people who called said they had substantial equity in DuPage County on a home. They have $200,000. They were from California, and they actually now they got them. They know where they live, and they know they got something to collect. So they are filing suits. You say, wait a minute, how did the title get clear? Well, a lender can release a property without releasing the person. So a lot of these incompetent lawyers didn't know that. The proper way, the way Stephen A. Leahy did, was you got a full release from both.
For both, yeah.
The short sale bank, and even if the second mortgage was getting $10 or whatever, or getting zero, you had to wait until don't set the closing until it's a forgiveness letter that says for all reasons.
We'd always carve out something for the second.
A little bit,
$1,500, $2,000
to make sure.
And then and then they would waive the balance.
Waive the balance because they were really in second place anyway. We can talk about that someday. What second place means? What it means is the bank's going to control it. You are basically in the back seat, and if there's not enough money for the bank, the big bank, there's not going to be enough money for you anyway. Bottom line is, it's if you get these letters, please hire a lawyer.
Absolutely. Do
not ignore it because you will. Your credit score is going to go down. You'll be in litigation. Your neighbors will know about it. It's not good.
Tell people how they can find you, Dave.
Sure. 630-285-5300. 630-285-5300. This is my 36th year of helping people.
Well, and you do help people, and that's what makes you such a great attorney, and that's why you're a trusted professional, and here on the Trust Radio Network. Remember now, Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. We can help you solve your IRS problem. Go to, I was going to say freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. Get yourself a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. You got to go to freeirsbook.com. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and finish the show here with Attorney Schlueter. I hope you're going to join us on the other side on AM 560, The Answer. We cut that commercial, and I gave it to WLS.
Good.
And I don't think they had too much to do since I think I had to put some music in the background. Yeah. Well, they said it to me. I told them, put some hero music in the background. I've started. I did doing some advertising with WLS.
Do it.
Yeah.
Their 94.7 is my first button.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, rock and roll. It sounds like the old loop. That's what it sounds like. The song.
Yeah.
It's not all Madonna and all this stuff. They'll get some hardcore. They'll get my AC/DC in there. They'll get REO. They get my group, Eagles, Boston, the Beatles. It's a nice mix, and they got a couple nice people in the morning there. This Kim and Dave or whatever it is. They're pretty good. They do a lot of contests. And we were there for, 5 years?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I was at WLS, though, because as a customer, because I was my favorite state, Big 89, and we're sitting there, and we're in the WLS. I'm like looking at all the historical stuff. That was cool.
I agree with that. We have returned. We're here with our technical producer, Joliet Josh. And our guest this week is attorney David Schlueter. Welcome back to the program, Dave. First, I want to thank you so much for giving us your time here today and sharing all your stories, because I think that's where we learn.
They're all real. Yeah, it's nonstop. In fact, in our business, and be nice to your lawyer, one phone call can change the whole day. My morning, I started up in Lake County, got into the office, planned on doing some work, and I had an hour and a half distraction of total circus. And it just started with a call that came in on a real estate deal and putting it out the fire, and unbelievable. So we have that. That's one thing that's nice, is we don't get bored, but I can tell you this: every day's different, and you never know where it's going to head ever. It's just 36 years. It's been that way every year. One phone call, one email, and everything stops. That's why I have a good staff, though, too, because they know which things that I have to handle myself.
Isn't it so important to have the right people?
Oh, I have the best staff. In fact, people.
How could you have the best staff if I have the best staff?
Well, we'll have a contest. We'll do a cage match. But me and you won't be in there.
Just the staff.
Yeah, we'll have a scotch on the side, watch them go for it.
Because it is important. And of course, as an attorney, right, you want your clients to be taken care of and serviced, right, and happy at the end.
Happy.
And how does that work? It works with the staff.
Overpaying them.
The staff
I
are the ones
was told by my former partner, who's now retired, you can't let them get alienated from you, your staff, because subconsciously it gets communicated through every voicemail, through how they answer. And we have a no voicemail rule during the day. It doesn't matter. We have a 3-ring rule. We don't care how hard you're working. Somebody's picking up that phone so they get a human. That's just my style, and it's paid off. People have appreciated me, and I get business because they go, you never have to leave Dave a voicemail. There's someone. Now, 2 a.m. on a Saturday, it's going to be voicemail.
Well,
but during the week, we always answer our phone.
Well, we always have we have the 3 rings, but if it rings, if we're on the phone, it goes to the service, and the service picks up.
Right.
Now, again, that could be a problem too, because I've had some problems with services I've changed over the years. Because then I get a client on the other side, that they were so bad to me. And
right.
I'm paying them to be nice to you.
I know. You almost want to have to have a security camera.
Exactly. So, but it is important to have the right people working for you and to make sure that, in the end, my name's on the
it all stops
the
with
office,
you.
but
it
same thing with you. But you have to, but the staff, you talk to the staff more than you talk to me.
Absolutely.
So it's important that you have the right person. So
I would like to give a shout out if it's okay.
Sure.
Home buyers, do not be talked into buying a home you can't afford just because your agent says it's a very limited inventory. I am seeing now riders on contracts that are either waiving appraisal outright or saying that the buyer will eat the first. I had a young lady, 26 years old, buying her second house. She had to eat. It had a rider. You will eat the first 10,000 shortfall.
Wow.
And the realtor goes, "It's not going to happen. I did a good job for you." It came in at 9,000.
Tell people how they can find you, Dave.
Yep. 630-285-5300. Always a free consultation.
Well, it's a lot of fun having you on the program. I appreciate you coming. We're going to have you on again because we always have you back because you share such great information. Remember, this is the Trust Radio Network every Saturday at 7 on AM 560, The Answer. Why they do it. Say goodbye. Okay. Well, thanks again, Dave. I had a lot of fun. And I always have fun when you're on the show. That's why I like to have you on the show. I try to have fun every week, though, whether you're on the show or not.
You don't want to get on the elevator here and not want to push the button because you're not enjoying yourself. Then it's over. You have to have the energy and drive, and it has to be a positive experience or you can't do it.
Well, I agree with that.
And it's pouring out, by the way.
Oh, that ain't good.
Horrible.
Oh, well. Well, we're going to take a little bit of a break, and I'm going to say goodbye to Dave, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to do the IRS Radio Hour, so don't go too far away. Don't stray away too far away from the show. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Thank you.
It was great. Your friendship means so much.
It goes so fast.
Oh, are you kidding? First time I had that in my own little show. That's how I met Dave.
I know.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, when I have my own little show, they go, okay, you're done. What do you mean? I got 3 guys on hold. And because it does fly. It's crazy fast. Yeah. Thanks again, Josh. We'll see you.
Crazy time.
I'm kind of done with him only because it's the same show and just change the date. I mean, it's a Tupac.
Is there any other one? Is there another guy? Hello, Joliet. You know what? Your clock is wrong. Oh, but you got a clock. But you got a clock because it was gone for a week, a week at least. Okay. Now what's going on here? This microphone is broken. I wouldn't say it's broken. The microphone isn't broken, but the rubber thing is. I'm okay with that though. I can make it work. Maybe. Okay. We are going to here. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Let's just do that. Let us just do that then. I'll just do that then. Okay. I am on. I'm on. I'm back. We were 2 minutes early. Dave Schlueter, very nice man. Always have a lot of fun when Dave's on the show. Again, knows a lot. I'm always surprised. I'll have a guy on the show here, and I'll ask. Almost everybody knows Dave Schlueter. It's amazing to me. It's hey, yeah, you know Dave? Oh yeah, sure. No, I know Dave. 30 years. It's kind of amazing. So he's well known in the legal circles. So I'm making another push for new guests. I have a couple reached out to some. I was only on D on the faculty list, and I think I'm now on L, but I haven't gotten a lot of responses this time. The first were really good. One guy got back to me. He wasn't an attorney, even though he's on the faculty list there. Wealth management, they are very. I don't think your show really is in our best interests. Okay. Well, I got another one from a woman who works for the Cook County. I'm a Cook County attorney. I don't know if I could go on your show. You can go on the show. I don't care. Although she did put her pronouns on her email to me, so she might not like me. Not that I care about anybody's pronouns. I really don't. But usually, if it's on your email and you're telling, there's usually a different point of view than mine. Usually, doesn't mean I don't care what. It's like the Ukrainian flag. Everybody's flying the Ukrainian flag. It's like they took the mask off and put the Ukrainian flag on. It's just another virtual signaling. Don't get me wrong. I'm no Putin lover. You could call me that, and some may call me that, only because you're trying to diss me. I will not be dissed. But if we hurry, we can get this show done quickly. That kind of goes hand in hand. Quickly, if we do it quickly, if we hurry, I guess. Sometimes when I hurry, it doesn't go quickly though. so that's not always true. And I'm glad that I remembered to ask my question about law school again, because I almost didn't do it because Dave's been here so many times. So I thought we're going to have a different format. But I did tell my kids, get this together so we can all this advice from these good attorneys. They have good advice for you. Listen to it. You don't have to follow it, but you should listen to it. Because there's a difference between the two. Now, where's Attorney Stephen Leahy? There he is. Okay, now we got it. Whenever you're ready there, Josh. I haven't really decided what I'm going to talk about today, but we'll figure it out. Hello, Chicago taxpayers. We are coming to you from Studio C here at AM 560 The Answer. This is the IRS Radio Hour. Now remember, the IRS Radio Hour is hosted or is sponsored by the Law Office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Opum Tax Advocates. Opum Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve their IRS problems forever. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. If you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now, I have my book is Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. What I'm telling people is, if you haven't filed your tax returns in some years, and I got to tell you, when people call me and they say, I've been listening to your show for years, and every time sometimes I have to turn it off because it hurts because I know I owe the IRS money, or I know I haven't filed, and then eventually they do call me. So here's the first thing you should do if you owe the IRS money or if you have unfiled tax returns. Get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. There's answers in there. You might not need any other help. So get a copy of the book. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. That's freeirsbook.com for a copy of your book, of my book. Not your book. It'll be your book when I give it to you. Your book. It'll be my book that I give you if it's your book. It's again, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com. So I want to welcome Joliet Josh. Woo-hoo! Thanks, Joliet, for all you do. And let's do the show. It's the news roundup, review and comment on the news. Now, I'm going to do something I usually don't do, and I usually just talk about the news, and there's really nothing going on. Oh yeah, there's a war going on. Oh, that's right. Oh, it might be nuclear war. Oh, but that's not really important. Let's talk about something that's really important. Oh, you know what else is really important about all of these Western companies that are abandoning Russia and the Russian people. This is the thing now. You don't like something, cancel them, like they did in Canada. You step out of line, we'll take away your banking. We won't let you bank. We won't let you buy anything. We won't let you go to school. We won't let you go. We won't let you have a job. We won't let you. If your leaders do something we don't like, same thing with you. We're going to cancel you right away. Cancel you. But here's something I don't generally do is I'm going to talk a little bit because there's a new rule came out about credit reports, and I don't generally talk about credit reports, but I thought this was important. They just announced this afternoon, but 70% of medical collection debt will soon be removed from credit reports, and it would boost your credit score. Because a lot of times people, and my friend David Hochberg would support this, and also, we work with Attorney Smith. He helps people with consumer debt. Some years ago, they stopped reporting IRS debt and liens on your credit report. And that was a big help for people because when you got a lien against you, all of a sudden your credit score would go down, and then you try to borrow money and you can't get any money because your credit score took a hit. So now if there's a lien against you, it doesn't affect your credit score. And another thing, what would happen a lot is that people go to buy a home or something, and they pull their credit report, and there's some medical bill from somebody that you've been some doctor that you've been fighting with, and they just report you to the credit score, and it affects your credit score. And all of a sudden you have a derogatory comment on it, and it's for like $200 for some chiropractor that you're saying you don't owe him, but he still reports you. So that kind of debt now is not going to be reported. I don't know if that's good or bad. It used to be that, it's good for consumers because it's, anything that helps your score. But is it good for the business people, right? Because is it really giving you a balanced view of someone's finances when you're not putting on tax information and you're not putting on medical information? It's kind of skewing the view of whether you're creditworthy or not. Now, you can argue that these two things are not really about credit. I can see the argument. I don't buy it, though, because, if I'm loaning you money, I want to have a full picture. Just my opinion. Although for my clients, because my clients are generally consumers, they're on the other side of this is good news for them. And so I wanted to bring that up on this show, even though I usually don't talk about that kind of stuff in this segment. I usually just talk about the news, and and again, there's enough going on in the news to there's plenty to talk about, and we hear about it over and over again. But I also did want to mention that again about these businesses and everybody shutting down. I guess Burger King can't get out of Russia fast enough because they have franchisees, and their franchisees won't let them leave. Same thing with Subway. But a lot of these other bigger companies, they all pulled out. They just, we're not going to. So what happens when things go back to normal? Are they going to go back there? And what happens? I don't know if you followed this about the dollar, that the Saudis have just agreed to take Chinese money instead of dollars for buying oil. This is big news. This is something that is unheard of, and it's going to be very detrimental to America. And one reason why they're doing it, right, because Russia gets into strife, and what do? We pull all their banking. Well, now they can't do banking in America, right? What would happen if your bank pulled your stuff? You'd go find a new bank. You'd find something else. And, I'm following all this on, maybe you are too, about cryptocurrency, right? And they're saying, well, oligarchs have cryptocurrency, and they're getting around these sanctions on cryptocurrency. So we have to stop cryptocurrency for everybody. Well, if they had dollars, should we stop the dollar too? It's just another excuse to come to for reporting. They don't want anything that they can't control. So if you're talking, they've been talking about the social credit scoring for a while, and almost happened now with COVID, right? That they wanted the vaccine card, and so if you didn't get a vaccine card, you couldn't go eat at we're still there, I think, in a lot of, not here in Chicago anymore, thank God, but I think it's still like that in California. So I think it's still like that in New York, that if you don't have a vaccine card, you can't go into a restaurant, right? You can't go see a game. I couldn't go to the United Center and see a game. I couldn't. The mask mandate. I wasn't going to the gym. I'm back to the gym though, because the mask mandate's over, so I'm back to walking upstairs, and it feels good. but I'm not going if they're going to make me wear a mask. Again, I wouldn't go in the city. I can't go to a restaurant. Can't go anywhere. Doesn't make any sense. But when they start doing this to countries, and they're afraid that you're going to interfere with their then they just stop using the dollar, and that's not a good thing for Americans, right? The dollar was always the king. Every dollar, every gallon of gas or barrel of oil that was purchased had to be purchased with dollars. And if you start agreeing that now they're going to start taking the Chinese money instead of the dollar, that's going to affect us all. And our credit, our government, maybe our government won't be able to borrow some. We just borrowed another $1.5 trillion. Okay. And the spending bill. We don't have that $1.5 trillion. And they spent it. They just gave the IRS a 6% raise. I don't know if you know that. Did you see that was in the bill? They tell you, well, that's because the IRS is so far behind. And it's true, but they don't need 6%. Anyway, I start going off on this. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the IRS and their increased budget, and you should join us. We're gonna have the blog segment. I'm going to talk about installment agreements, because this is the most common way to solve IRS problems. We got the Constitution segment we're going to talk about. I got the Mr. Know-It-All segment, and so you won't want to miss any of that. So we're going to take a break right now. Remember, Open Tax Advocates, 312-664-6649. Give them a call if you're having a tax problem. So again, we're going to take a little bit of a break, come right back with the blog segment here on AM 560, The Answer. I feel very lethargic today. It's the drinking. It was St. Patrick's Day after all. I do have a son who was born on St. Patrick's Day. And then tomorrow is Saturday, and my son Joseph's birthday. It's a very special birthday for Joe. He's going to be 21. Yes. And so when Jake was 21, was 2 years ago. That was Jake's birthday yesterday, St. Patrick's Day. And remember what happened 2 years ago on St. Patrick's Day? They closed all the bars. So Jake turned 21 years old, and he couldn't go to a bar. They were all closed. Who would think that you wait your whole life for that? And they took that away from him. Poor kid. I don't think it stopped him from drinking, though. But he just couldn't drink at a bar that day. I think he's been to a bar since. I know he has. Oh, matter of fact, I wanted to mention that to our friend was Dave Schlueter here earlier, and Dave Schlueter introduced me to Attorney Peck, and Attorney Peck now is where Jake works, Richie Peck. So that's how I met Mr. Peck from Mr. Schlueter. So let's move on. Let's do the show. What am I going to talk about? Let me see what I'm going to talk about. Installment agreement terms. That's what I'm going to talk about. Okay. Who was last week? Was it Jay? Was that the week before? Oh, Kevin Dixler. That's right. Jay was immigration. Welcome back to the program. We're here with Joliet Josh. This is this is not the Trust Radio Network, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Trust Radio Network. This is the IRS Radio Hour. We're going to talk about IRS stuff. But first I want to Joliet here is with us. He's our technical producer. He's also the technical producer on our other show, and that's the Trust Radio Network, where I introduce you to trusted professionals. Last night, now I don't know if it was on last night, because of basketball. Some of the programming here at AM 560 is being pushed around by the basketball, and I know that they told if Loyola had one that looked like the IRS radio hour was going to be pushed, this show was going to be pushed, but they didn't win, so I don't think it's going to be changed. I think you'll know because you're listening. It's at 5:00. But yesterday we had the Trust Radio Network. We had attorney Kevin Dixler. He's an immigration attorney. He was the first immigration attorney that I had on the show, and it was really interesting conversation. Guy knows what he's talking about. So I invite you to find that if you missed the show last night, to find it on YouTube. We're on YouTube at Chicago Tax Team. You can go to watchtalkradio.com. It's there. Every show is there. You can find it video. So go there, listen, because again, the guy knows what he's talking about. If you're having an immigration problem, if you know someone who does, this is the guy you got to talk to. So I highly recommend that. Now, next week on the show on the Trust Radio Network, we have attorney Dave Schlueter, or should I say David Schlueter, because that's the proper name. But he goes by Dave. But Dave Schlueter's a good friend of the show. He's been on the show many times. He talks about real estate, probate. He's an all-around good guy. Knows a lot about a lot of legal issues, been around a long time. And he is when I have a question, I had someone call, we talked about it on the show, and you can hear it next week, where someone calls me, and I said, well, that might be more of a probate question than a tax question. And so then I call Dave, and Dave has the answer. So that's the way we work here. I don't have all the answers, even though they say I do on the beginning. I don't have all the answers, but I know where to get them, and that sometimes is as important as having the answers, right? I know who to go to. That's why we have the strong network on the Trust Radio Network. So again, join us next Saturday at 7:00 for attorney Dave Schlueter. That's right. It's a blog segment. This is the blog segment where I'm going to talk about Here's the thing. Most people hear about this offer and compromise, and that's what they want. Okay, but the truth is, almost all, a very big portion of all these cases get settled with what they call an installment agreement. And that's just the way it works. You can't get out from the IRS. I know that you hear it on the radio. Hey, you pay the IRS pennies on the dollar. They'll agree. It doesn't work that easily. It's very difficult to get one of those. I think in the last numbers that we have for offers and compromises are from 2019, the tax year 2019. And in that, actually 2020. In 2020, the IRS settled 7.4 million collection cases. That's what they call a case when you owe them money. They settled 7.4 million cases. Of those 7.4 million cases, about 14,500 were offers in compromise. So that's less than 1/4% of all cases are settled that way. So when you hear that and someone's trying to sell you that, why are they trying to sell you that? Because that's the easy sale, right? Everybody wants that. I say, if I ask 500 of my clients, who wants that? 500 hands go up. How many are going to get it? Less than 1/4% of those. So almost nobody. And that's just a fact. So most of these cases are settled on an installment agreement. And a lot of people will go call the IRS themselves and set up an installment agreement. You could do this over the phone. You could do it on online. You could set up your own installment agreement depending on how much you owe and what you're willing to pay. So if you owe less than $25,000, right, you could get on the phone with the IRS, or you can go online to the IRS and you can set up what they call this form is 433D. And there's a couple different 433 forms. So it's 433D. And you can just say, here, I'm going to pay you. I owe you $25,000. I'm going to divide by 60. How much is that a month? That's what I'm going to pay you. And generally they'll accept that. But what people don't understand when you get an installment agreement, there's other terms involved in that installment agreement. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, because a lot of times people call me and say, I'm in an installment agreement, but now I owe them for last year. Would you set up another one for me? And I have to tell them, it doesn't work like that. Once you're in an installment agreement, there's other terms than just paying. So I want to just read this, because this is the letter that you get from the IRS. This is letter 2840C. They have a letter for it. They number everything. Okay, so this is the letter that they send out to you when you get an installment agreement, and nobody reads it. Read the letters. Okay, this is a legal agreement. It's a contract. They're holding you to it, and they're saying, so here, this is part of it. I just wanted to touch on this. You must meet all conditions of your installment agreement. If you don't, we can cancel it and take enforcement action to collect the full amount of your tax liability. Enforcement action could include filing a notice of federal tax lien, which notifies your creditors of our lien against your property, or placing a levy on your wages or your bank account. If enforcement actions occur, you could have collection appeal rights through the collection appeals program. So anyway, you're going right back to the beginning. You don't there's not another agreement. And so here's the terms. Now this is, they're telling you, hey, you got to follow all the terms. And here's the terms. You have to pay a reinstatement fee. Other conditions of this agreement are: you pay on time all federal and state taxes due during the term of this agreement. So if the next year comes and you don't file your tax return on time, you've broken the agreement. If the next year comes and you don't pay your taxes in full, you've broken the agreement. And this is what people don't understand. That's why they say, well, I already have an installment agreement. I missed this year. Can I get another installment agreement? No, it's canceled. Next one, you file on time all federal and state tax returns due during the term. So you got to pay your taxes and you got to file the tax return. And not only federal, you got to do state also. And that says, and this is very important here, we'll apply all installment agreement payments to the oldest tax assessments first, then penalties, then interest on that assessment. So they're going to apply the money for best for them, for the IRS. Now, if you make voluntary payments, you can direct those payments anywhere you want. But if you're doing it on an installment agreement or through a levy, they're gonna do it for the best interest of the government, not for you. You have to pay all installment agreement user fees. Well, that makes sense. And there are fees. You got to pay fees up front, depending on whether you're going to do direct deposit or if you're going to send them a check. there's different fees for this. You provide a current this is a big one too. You provide a current financial statement when we request one. If you have a change in your ability to pay, we can revise or cancel your installment agreement. This is why we changed our the way we work at my office, because most of these agreements, it's not like you get in an agreement and then you walk away and then nothing changes. The IRS will usually, because most of these agreements, or many of them, are not full pay. And that's right. It's not based on how much and this is what scares people. Sometimes people say, I owe so much, I'll never be able to pay them. So what do? Nothing. And they don't get involved with the IRS because they're afraid. But here's the thing. You can come up with a payment plan based on how much you can pay, not on how much you owe. And that's such a freeing. So don't let the numbers affect you too much. Don't let them scare you. That say, I owe him so much money, I don't even want to face it. You might not have to pay him all that money. Okay, but when you come up with this installment agreement, the partial installment agreement, they can come back in a year or 2 years and say, hey, are you making more money now? Show us what you're making now. Can you pay us more? And then you might have to go through this whole process again. So it doesn't end just because you get an installment agreement. You're probably going to have to pay for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. You might have to pay. So for all those 10 years, they're going to come back on occasion and ask you to prove it again. And unless you want to hire a lawyer every time to do this, that's why we came up with this, the way we do our office. And if you're interested in that, that's why we say we help you solve it forever. And that's what makes us a little bit different than other outfits. And what outfit am I talking about? Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems forever. You should call them. Or better yet, if you have an IRS problem or if you owe money, get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com. That's freeirsbook.com. Get your free copy. We're going to take another break. We're going to do the Constitution segment with Attorney Dave Schlueter, and I hope you don't miss it. Here on AM 560, The Answer. Woohoo. I got to change. Don't ever change, Steve. I won't. That's not. Okay, let's get right into it before I fall asleep. Yeah, I am the tax man here on AM 560, The Answer, here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer, and you, the listener. That's right, it's Mr. Know-It-All. I was just remembering the first time I came up with that, and Jimmy, because Jimmy and I used to fight with this, how it would work. And then one time I said, I'm here with Jimmy. Deborah was here at the time. And you, the listener, said, we found it. That's the way we're going to introduce the show. So we've been doing that ever since. So that's why I was laughing, because I was with Jim last night. Anyway, I wanted to talk about, here's the question. And this is the question I get. I'm getting it all. And you hear it on the news even. They're talking a lot about this, right? And the question is this. What can I do to make sure I get my refund faster, my tax refund? Right, because this is the big thing now. Everybody's hearing on the news, some people are still waiting from last year. And that's true. A lot of people are still waiting from last year. There's like 25 million returns and paper correspondence that are behind for the IRS. And, now the commissioner from the IRS was just in front of the House Ways and Means Committee yesterday. And he was saying, I promise that we're going to get rid of this backlog by the end of the year. This is the second year in a row now that we've had this backlog. And a lot of it is not really the IRS's fault. So what do they always say whenever they're having this problem? If you would just fund us more, just give us more money, we wouldn't have this problem. And I was saying, what agency with the government would say that they don't need more money? Everyone. Well, we would, our FDA, we'd be so much better if we had more money. The TSA, we would stop all things if we just had more money. The FBI, we just need more agents, that's all. Go through the whole litany of them. They all will say they need more money. So I understand why they say that. We've been underfunded of course they just spent another $1.5 trillion. And of that $1.5 trillion, the IRS got $675 million more dollars for the year, just for this year. $675 million. And then, it's a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket. It's not enough. Well, but anyway, so let me go back to the question because I get distracted. Start talking about this stuff. But anyway, here's what you got to do. First thing, do it electronically and make sure that you provide your correct banking information, because that way a person will never see it. It's done electronically, and it will fly through. They say the IRS is promising, now, empty promise or not. They're saying 21 days. That if you send it that way and there's no errors or anything, that in 21 days you should get your refund. Okay, but you got to do it electronically. That's very important, and you have to make sure that everything that your bank information is right. And a lot of people will get something wrong. So also another way to make sure that you get it done right is make sure there's no errors on it. Make sure your Social Security number is correct in the box when you're filling it in, because this is whenever there's an error, it gets sidelined, and then a person has to look at it. We don't want people to look at it. That's what's causing all these problems, right? Because last year the American Rescue Plan, which did the Venmo stuff and all that, but that also changed a lot of tax laws retroactively. So last March they passed that bill, and the IRS had to go back and redo a whole bunch of tax returns by hand, and that's one reason why there's 20 million that are still out there. Okay, so make sure that it's complete, and that's up to you. That you can double check it. If you owe the IRS money, you're not going to get a refund, okay? Or they're going to take what you owe. If there's a balance more than that, then they'll give you the balance. But don't expect a refund if you owe the IRS money. They're never going to send you money. I shouldn't say never, because they did the stimulus. It used to be whenever they gave you a stimulus, if you owed them money, they would just keep the stimulus. But with COVID, even if you owed the IRS money, they still sent you a stimulus. But if you file a tax return and you're supposed to get a refund and you owe the IRS money, you ain't getting the refund. They're keeping it. Okay. And I already talked about the bank information. You got to make sure that that's right. Don't file a paper return. File it electronically. You got to file it electronically. If the IRS thinks that there's identity theft also, but that's got nothing to do with you, right? You can't stop that. If they think there is something wrong, they're not going to send you the refund, and there's a lot of fraud going on, and they send billions. That's right, I said it. Billions of dollars every year to people who ask under the wrong Social Security number and take others' refunds. Happens every year. They're trying to come down on it, but that means that other legitimate taxpayer refunds, they get sidelined and they don't get the money. It takes longer, and it's just the way it is. So again, the key: do it electronically. Any information that you can check. Okay, make sure your tax information is right. So anyway, these are the big things. Again, electronically, and get your banking information correct. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Yes, thank you, Mr. Noel. Hey, that's me. Well, anyway, this is important, and I know that it's important that people get their refund. And that's the biggest question that I always get at Open Tax Advocates. People call and ask me questions. If you have a question, call. I'd be happy to answer your question for you. Make sure that you tell them that you heard me on the show. If you say you looked me up on the internet, then you might not get me. Okay, but if you say, hey, I listened to a show, he told me to call, I will always take your call and try to answer your question. And so give us a call at 312-664-6649. We're going to take a break. We're going to wrap up the show with Joliet Josh here on AM 560. The Answer. Oh boy, it's 10-3. I sound like I'm slurring my words. Did you catch that? Do you think I am? Am I slurring my words? I'm so tired. I got up though. I didn't want to. I missed last week during Lent. We at church, the men's group, part of the men's group. Every Friday we go. We're supposed to do first Friday every month. We do a mass in the morning at 6:30, and during Lent it's every Friday. We do mass, and then we do Stations of the Cross. We kind of go back and forth on that. I missed last week, and so and the week before too. Yeah, the week before was March 4th. Now I had some other event. Now here's another thing. Next Thursday I have an event. I got the Dan Proft event coming up, and then the next Thursday I have Bill O'Reilly coming to town at Genovese Theater, I think. I am sponsoring that as I wanted to get you that. Maybe we could play it. It's too late. I was going to play my spot on this show, but that's okay. I've already sent it to Chad, and I think they're going to be playing it, and they replaced the other spot. So listeners should hear it 5 times. My kids always say, "Why you play that? Why play your show, your commercial during your show? Is it a waste?" I say, "It's part of the show. I pay for that." Okay, let's do the 000 segment, as I like to call it. I listen to your show again. Again, you get me lost in the information because you know too much about it. No, for me it is, because that's I told you about this. I talked about my kids about this. Some people, they know all this, right? And but it's just not me. I do listen to you, but again, I don't know the players like you do, so it's not as it's not as meaningful to me because I don't know them. Well, you get excited. I told you I listen on double time. I listen on double speed, so that's fast. That's fast. Well, it's 40. I think your last show was 30-some minutes, almost 40 minutes. And I want to make sure I get it in. Well, thank you, Joliet Josh. I appreciate that. I was just telling Joliet that I watch his show again. I watch it on YouTube, so I don't listen on the podcast. So I'm always on. I go to YouTube, and they feed it to me now because they know that I'm watching it. I don't know. You talk mostly. This last one was NBA, so that but talk a little bit about the Bears and their big changes because they've made some big changes. He was really the only thing that I'm sad to see him go. Well, I agree with that. Usually, it's like what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. They're doing the mistake that we all make, and that's paying him for what he's already done, and not paying him for what he's going to do. It's like, thanks for the work that you. Now, maybe he's going to do Tom Brady and be great for the next, but that's unusual and you can't really count on that, in my opinion. Well, I agree with that, and again, I think that they're making the Bears' mistake, which is paying for what you've done. You've already got paid for that, and the promises when they sign him 5 years or something like that, it probably wouldn't have cost him as much because I know he wanted to leave, and so how can we get him to say, pay him a lot of money, more than everybody else will? Okay, then he'll. Wow. It's amazing. The money, yeah, the money is amazing. I remember when Michael Jordan when he got that $35 million. It was unbelievable. And then I think they could only give him like a 10% raise every year, so that's what he got. And he was like, they're paying him 30. But I mean, that was now these guys, and he, of course, he's Michael Jordan. But now, and what about Michael Jordan now? He's a billionaire. A billionaire. Who plays ball and becomes a billionaire? Michael Jordan. So, but again, that $200 million is a lot of money. Right? It's not a lot for Congress. Right? I said they just gave the IRS $675 million. Shot in the bucket. Or you could buy a good football quarterback for a couple of years with that kind of money. So yeah, it is. We didn't get a chance to talk about the tournament because the NCAA tournament's not going. Yeah, Loyola lost, and I'm not even a big Loyola basketball fan, but I went to Loyola. Okay, so a couple of years ago when they went, it was a big deal, and I even have a pin with the Loyola. How many games? My kids always ask me, how many games did you go to? None. I never went to a basketball game. So anyway, thanks so much, Josh, for your input because he knows more about it than I do, especially NBA. The guy knows the NBA, and he's our reporter on the spot at Soldier Field. So thanks again, Josh. So remember now, if you're fighting the IRS, what's the first thing you should do? It's a question. It's a quiz now. What's the first thing? Get a copy of my book. Deal with your IRS problem today. Go to freeirsbook.com. freeirsbook.com and get yourself a copy of my book. We're going to remember to join us here again next Sunday evening at 5 o'clock for the IRS Radio Hour here on AM 560, The Answer. That was fun. It's 4 o'clock. And you know what gets me about this camera? I set it up. I was sitting here for an hour. Everything was working fine. All the cameras were on. And then it just turned off. And let's see, why did it turn off? I don't. Oh, you know what? That's what I want to check. Let me see if I can. If I unplug this, maybe I can find out what the problem is. Let's see if I. Let's do this. Yeah. So now it's either I didn't hear a click. Maybe it's this piece. Because now the camera's working. Huh. So let's try this then. Let's try this. That didn't work. I know. So it is. It is this piece. Or is it? Aha. Aha. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not clicking in. But that could have been the thing last week. There it goes. Now it clicked in. Okay. Little troubleshooting.
Just a heads up for you, today is Deborah's last day.
Oh.
I figured you would like to know that.
Where's she going?
I don't know, but they said she's no longer going to be here. So.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it's a little sad. It's nearly 16 years. It's unheard of.
Jesus is like, don't ask me for help now.
So sad.